What's up, guys? It's your man, Donovan Sharp, and welcome to this edition of The Sharp Reality. Be sure to visit thesharpreality.com anytime to listen to all podcast episodes. You can also find them on my YouTube channel, SoundCloud, as well as iTunes. You can drop me your thoughts, your questions, your show ideas, personal stories, or anything else on your mind under the contact tab of my website, the comment section of my YouTube episodes, as well as Twitter at Donovan_Sharp. If you want to support the show, all you got to do is bookmark the Amazon link in the sidebar of our homepage and do all your Amazon shopping through that link. And in doing so, you'll help keep us on the air while keeping your pockets fat because it won't cost you a dime. We all know that acting like a needy beta is the quickest way to shoot yourself in the foot when talking to girls. We've all been there. We've all done that. We've all experienced rejection because of it. I'm not breaking news here. We all know this. However, there is a style of next-level game that doesn't get quite as much publicity on the manosphere as it should, and it's proven to be quite effective for me over the years, and it's what I like to call, what I've dubbed, calculated beta game. Now, what is calculated beta game? Well, it's real simple. Calculated beta game is the act of strategically allowing a woman to discover a perceived vulnerability or weakness that you do not actually have. What this does, gentlemen, is that it creates the illusion that you can be tamed or civilized or locked down, so to speak. It's more or less dangling the proverbial carrot in front of a woman. Now, it's no secret that girls have always loved the bad boys, all right? But they also know that these bad boys are far from sexually loyal, which in the long run doesn't really make for optimum husband or boyfriend material. All of that said, they can't help themselves. So knowing all of this in the back of their head, they jump into these love affairs. They jump into relationships into relationships with these players, being fully aware of what's probably going to happen down the line, which of course is cheating, drama, lies, all sorts of things. But the vast majority of women would rather be cheated on by an alpha than worshipped by a beta anyway. So as far as they're concerned, it's worth the risk. Subconsciously in their minds, they're thinking, well, if I can't change him, if I can't lock him down, at least I'll have some fun. Women would rather share an alpha than have a beta all to themselves. They would never say this out loud, but their feminine hard drive yearns for that 5 minutes of alpha, the fabled 5 minutes of alpha. They would much rather share an alpha than have a beta all to themselves. Again, I'm not breaking news here. We all know this stuff. On the flip side, at some point, even the most seasoned veteran players who have been in the game for years, he'll eventually lock down a girl if he likes her, because that's in our nature. I've never hidden from the fact that having one quality female in my life is better than having a bunch of sluts, all right? And look, I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. I've been kicking around the idea of a long-term relationship with a girl I'm seeing now. And listen, some of you might be thinking, well, what are you doing, Donovan? Guys, game is fucking hard, all right? It takes a lot of time and resources. It takes a lot of work to fuck pretty girls on the regular, and if your approach to lay closing ratio is 1 out of 10, you're a fucking god even though you're failing 90% of the time. That's how hard it is. I'll use baseball as an analogy. If you are a career 300 hitter, that means your batting average is at, near, or above 300, you're a Hall of Famer, and you fail at the plate 70% of the time. The same applies to game. If you end up fucking just 10% of the girls that you approach, you are a Casanova. That's how hard game is. So, in my mind, a little respite, a little reprieve in the form of a long-term relationship, it can really do a man good and give him a bit of a break from the grind of game and pickup. Now, of course, this is all provided that he's exercised good judgment in selecting his girl and has laid the groundwork properly. Even then, things can still go sideways, and unfortunately, guys, a long-term relationship is one of the few things in this world that can bring a man to his knees. Now, in order to reduce the odds of being unraveled by a woman, we as men, we utilize certain strategies to keep things like this from happening. This is what we call game. If you regularly listen to podcasts like this or read Red Pill sites, you're familiar with the you're familiar with all sorts of techniques that keep women around. There are a few unorthodox techniques, however, that do work. Of course, that depends on the girl, but the one method, I'll say it again, that doesn't get as much copy as it deserves and has proven to be effective is beta game. Now, a lot of men are probably asking, okay, well, why beta game? Why would you do this? Here's the reason. Women would never admit this out loud, but they adore men that they cannot change or bend to their will. They'll bitch and complain, oh, he doesn't spend enough time with me, or he doesn't, he works too much, or he's always into his hobbies. But they stick around anyway, because a man that they can't control is a man they can respect and love. However, when you strategically and sort of intentionally give her the slightest glimpse of what she'll end up characterizing as a redeeming quality, and I'll explain this a little bit later to you guys, her attraction to you will skyrocket. When you do this correctly, she'll be hooked on you. All right, she will chasing that carrot gets women addicted to you. This is how effective calculated beta game is. Girls want to be with a man. Girls want to be with men who do what they want, when they want, without apologies or explanation. But she will relentlessly chase a man to the ends of the earth, guys, if she sees even the slightest chink in that armor. Okay, if you are the true embodiment of an unmovable, unshakable alpha male, if she thinks she has a chance to lock you down, she will stick around for as long as you want her to. Now, of course, we all know that she doesn't really want you to change. I discussed this with IM on a past podcast. Men create women into something they love. Women create men into something that she will despise. So deep down, she doesn't really want you to change, and you don't really possess the weakness or the vulnerability that you've led her to believe that you have. But she doesn't know that. Further, she doesn't realize that if she is successful in sort of her quest to civilize you or her quest to change you, it's game over, all right? Because a tamed man, a civilized man, is an unattractive man in her eyes. But the continuous pursuit of the impossible, it fuels sort of how can I put this? It fuels a fire that always burns. And as long as you don't cave into her demands or do what she thinks that she desires, she will always be there for you. Again, this is how effective calculated beta game is. Now, let's start to get into the nuts and bolts. There are three conditions. There are three conditions necessary for calculated beta game to work. Number one, you must be alpha from the start. For this brand of game to be effective, guys, you absolutely have to establish and maintain your dominance, your high value, your abundance mentality from your very first interaction with her, guys. There is no margin for error here. You have to be 100% congruent. There are no two ways about it. Beta game, or calculated beta game, and I'm telling you because I've seen this happen to myself and other people, calculated beta game will have absolutely zero impact if you've failed multiple shit tests, or if she detects even trace amounts of anything resembling one-itis. Women have no interest, guys, in chasing a carrot they've already eaten. You're already a conquered mountain in her eyes, so more of the same will give her more reasons to cheat on you if she hasn't already. So, number one, gotta be alpha from the start, and you have to stay congruent. Number two, show, don't tell. This is absolutely paramount in beta game. And listen, a common phrase that black women like to spew is, don't talk about it, be about it. Don't talk about it, be about it. This is one of the few things that I agree with them on, and it is intrinsic to beta game. The reason for this is simple, guys. Disclosure comes off as seeking sympathy or approval. Discovery will be characterized as a redeeming quality to her. This makes a huge difference in her mindset by just keeping your mouth shut and letting things happen naturally, letting her discover things organically. For example, instead of telling a woman, I just love children like most men do, instead of telling her you love children, show her. All right. And I'll get into this a little bit later. This particular brand of beta game, like the I Love Children, this is straight up chick crack. And when I tell you a story a little later in the episode, you'll definitely see this in action. So number 2, show, don't tell. Number 3, and this is very important. This kind of goes with number 2, but this is kind of a supplement. Don't stage anything. This is where congruence pays off, guys. Staging phone calls or setting up situations or staging anything to build attraction, that's going to blow up your face if the girl you're trying to quote impress learns that your chance meeting is orchestrated. And listen, let's not parse our words here. That's probably going to happen anyway because women are born with a supernatural ability to sniff things out like this. So when she figures out that, okay, this is all just a setup or this has all been staged, not only will your value plummet, but you'll probably end up losing the girl. My high school baseball coach used to tell us, let the game come to you. Don't push it. Don't try too hard. Same concept here, guys. All you have to do is be ready when and if the opportunity presents itself, as opposed to forcing the issue. So let me tell you guys a couple of personal stories, give you guys a few personal examples of calculated beta game in action. When I first moved to Las Vegas years and years ago, I moved into a small apartment complex, just gotten my job and just kind of starting life over. Well, anyway, I was at my complex's laundromat, just doing my laundry when I thought I heard someone yelling. So I took out my earbuds, I looked around, but I didn't see anything, so I put my buds back in and continued folding clothes. Well, a few minutes later, I heard it again. Well, this time I turned off the music and walked outside, and I saw an old man who had fallen down. He had his groceries everywhere. His walker was off to the side. So apparently he had lost grip on his walker. He fell and couldn't get to his feet. So I helped the guy up, and I walked him back to his apartment, which happened to be right across the hall from mine. Of course, he thanked me and invited me to stop by later, for a drink, and I didn't have anything else going on that night, so I accepted. Turns out the guy was a Vietnam War veteran, and he turned out to be one of the coolest people I've ever met in my life. He was a great storyteller. When he would tell stories, like, we both laughed and sipped our whiskeys or whatever. But he'd been married twice, and listen, he was a player. He was quite the rascal with the ladies, as he used to call it. Now, by this point, his liver was shot from a lifetime of drinking, but he didn't give a shit. He knew he was on the back nine, and look, nothing was going to stop him, at least from enjoying what little time he had left. Now, he had multiple back surgeries and severely arthritic knees, which got him disability. But as we all know, that monthly check is barely enough to make ends meet. Now, I was broke back then, but I really wanted to help the guy out. So what I decided to do is I decided to give him half of what I got for donating plasma every week, which was roughly $30. That was one of the ways that I made ends meet when I first moved to Vegas, is that I donated plasma, and I got $25 or $30 per donation. And it wasn't much, but it was the least I could do. He was always appreciative, and he paid me back in liquor and wisdom. And if I'm being honest, as far as I'm concerned, I'm the one who came out ahead in those transactions. So anyway, one evening I was hanging out with a girl I was dating when he came over to return the card that the plasma money was loaded onto after donations. Now, usually he just said thanks, but this time he profusely thanked me for help. He says, "Man, you helped me out in my time of need. I wish the world had more people in it like you," and so on and so forth. So this son of a bitch still had a little bit of wingman left in him. So when he left, the girl that I was with, she started talking all this stuff about my character and my heart of gold and how that attractive quality was lost in today's man. She was all over me that night, and her behavior substantially improved over the next few weeks. This worked out beautifully because everything was already in place. And when the situation arose, it worked to my advantage without me having to push the agenda. Now, granted, I got a little bit of help from a veteran player who was cognizant of the scenario and helped me out. And of course, a couple days later, he asked me how the night went with a wry smile on his face. But the fact that I wasn't jumping at the chance to impress this girl made all the difference in the world. Now, things like this had happened to me. They had happened to me before, but being unplugged, from the matrix, finding the red pill, and having a deeper understanding of women and their motivations helped me to become more aware of the power of beta game. And this was one of many examples of calculated beta game in action. I didn't have to push the action. Here's another story I'll tell you guys. A few Christmases ago, my sister and brother-in-law, they came to Vegas to spend the holidays with me. And now, aside from their shopping and holiday preparations, just the usual norms, they wanted to go out and do some gambling and, get into a little bit of foolishness, no problem. At the time, they had 3 young children. They were 10, 6, and 4 at the time of their visit. So they didn't really get a chance to go out that much. Now, I've never really been much for, holiday shenanigans, so I was more than happy, to watch my nephew and nieces while they headed, to the strip to sort of indulge in the bright lights and the casinos and, just enjoy a few kid-free nights. Well, one of these evenings, my girlfriend, was actually another chick that I was dating. She stopped by after she got off work, and she basically was there with me and my nieces and nephews. Now, my nephew and I, we had a blast. We sat there and played Halo. My nieces watched, and they sort of enjoyed the spectacle. We ate Christmas. We were eating Christmas sweets and candies and all this other kind of stuff. We all laughed and had a good time. All the while, my girlfriend had this dreamy look on her face that she couldn't get rid of. So after I put him to bed, once again, my girlfriend ranted and raved about how great I was with kids and how I'm going to make a wonderful father and how my kids are going to love me and they're going to be lucky children and so on and so forth. And I fucked her brains out. We had like the wildest, craziest sex. And once again, that behavior continued for a while. Once again, guys, that little event, that changed our relationship for the better. She became more selfish between the sheets. She made more of an effort to look good for me. She made herself available much. Like, she had a busy schedule, but she was around more. She even took to cleaning my apartment when she came over. All of this was an effort to push for a long-term relationship, which she eventually verbalized. Funny thing is the girl had just turned 21, and when we first hooked up, she made it very clear that she had no interest in having children or settling down, which was fine by me. But when she saw me interacting with my sister's kids, she stepped into a phone booth and came out super girlfriend. Again, that's the power. This is what calculated beta game does. Another example is one girl I had over. She saw a picture that I had on my bookshelf. When she asked who they were, I lied to her and I told her, it's just some people I volunteered at a shelter with. Once again, she's like, oh, that's so sweet. She picked up the picture and swooned. Like, I could almost see her hamster working overtime, sort of painting me as some sort of admirable philanthropist extraordinaire. Another technique that works very well is carrying a picture of your mother in your wallet. Girls foolishly believe, this is another lie that girls foolishly believe about men. They believe that a man who treats his mother well will treat women well. So when they catch a glimpse of that picture in your wallet, they assume that you hold your mother in high regard, which will, in her mind, elevate her status on account of the myth they've been fed about men treating their significant others the way that they treat their moms. That's just how it is. Girls believe anything. One example that I will give about calculated beta game in action. I actually read a blog a while back. It's called the Solomon 2 blog, and this is the Solomon 2 blog, which was written by Dalrock. This is solid fucking gold, guys, and should be read by any and every male in the Western Hemisphere. check it out. He's written things like The Drive-Thru Boyfriend, the Solomon 2 blog. That is Red Pill, rock solid Red Pill Game 101. It's absolutely free on the internet. You should absolutely check that out. If you're new to game, if you're new to the Red Pill, or if you're a veteran player, the Solomon 2 blog, you've got to check it out. So anyway, I'm going to read an excerpt from the Solomon 2 blog, and this is calculated beta game. So it says, quote, "One of my friends is dating a 10. I mean a perfect, jaw-dropping, every man and woman in the club stops in amazement when she walks in 10. She's 5'9", half Latina, half American Indian fitness instructor with a tiny waist and large natural C cups. He says, dear God Almighty, it hurts just thinking about her." He continues, it says, "A few weeks ago, we're all hanging out at a club, and she was leaning in to talk to me. She says, I wish Jeremy would just settle down. We're too old to be out clubbing like this." She's 26 years old, by the way. He says, "There was no way in hell I'd ever get her to leave my buddy, her 6'3" Abercrombie & Fitch model lookalike boyfriend. I decided to try a different approach on her. I tossed out the game, the negs, the framing, etc., and simply said, I agree. We really are too old to be partying like this. I'm really at a point in my life where I just want to settle down with a woman I love, have a family, and enjoy the next phase of my life. I know it sounds strange to hear a man say this, but I think I'm finally ready for a baby." He continues, "Her eyes dilated. She put her hand on my elbow with her boyfriend not 10 feet away. She leaned in and said to me, you know, you're a good man. If I wasn't with Jeremy, I would so be with you. Then she kissed me half on my lips, half on my chin, and smiled. She waited a few seconds to gauge my reaction. I said nothing. I just looked at her. She said, we're always in a group. Why don't we ever just hang out together? We can do grown-up stuff like check out a museum or see a show." And that was where the excerpt ended. Guys, calculated beta game works. Dalrock used this to perfection. He said to this girl, he said, I want to settle down. I want to have kids. He agreed with her, and she ate that shit up. Once again, he didn't have to force the issue. He had already established his high value with her. Everything was in place. He simply waited for the opportunity to deploy calculated beta game, and she took the bait hook, line, and sinker. You can read that story and more on the Solomon 2 blog. That's how it is. Showing women, guys, and I'm just going to wrap this up here, showing women sort of faux flashes, sort of false, and I'm not saying that you should lie to a woman, but women lie to men all the time, and listen, this is about attraction. This isn't about morality. This isn't about doing right by women or anything like that. But showing men flashes of the men that you, quote, could be, and then quickly taking it away, it triggers a reaction in their brain almost similar to the dopamine rush that romantic comedy fantasies give her. Okay, it's the same kind of thing. Teasing a woman with what she wants after giving her a taste drives her crazy, and what this eventually leads to is her stepping up her efforts to keep you around long term. Now, I'll reiterate, it is absolutely paramount to remember things like frame, congruency, and the organic presentation of your, quote, endearing quality. These are all key to successfully switching on your target's acquisition mode. If you want your woman to switch on acquisition mode, and acquisition mode is when a woman, she lets you fuck her anytime she wants. She's cooking for you. She's cleaning your apartment. She is in super girlfriend mode. She's in acquisition mode. Guys, if you're a beta schlub if you come off as some tryhard, it's not going to work. That's just how it is, because women know the difference. But be careful. And I will warn you, because this particular brand of game, this has the potential to turn your girl into that crazy ex when and if you decide to leave her. Once a woman has it in her mind that you're the one who will fulfill her wants and needs and fantasy, she will stop at nothing to rein you back in. That can bring a lot of unwanted drama into your life. And listen, I'm not bullshitting you here, guys. This is how it works. I'm not going to tell you, after selling you some bullshit supplements, hey, be careful. You might build too much muscle. You might get too ripped. You might want to fuck. No, I'm not feeding you guys any bullshit like that. I'm telling you, calculated beta game when run effectively, is extremely, extremely powerful, and you must be careful on who you use it with. If the girl you're fucking or dating has any sort of crazy qualities, like I'll bust the windows out of your car, I'll slash your tires, I'll show up to your job unannounced, things of that nature, I'll show up to your place unannounced, don't run this level of game on her, because again, once she has it in her mind that you're the one, she'll go fucking crazy if you ever dump her. Just keep that in mind. That does it for this edition of TSR. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Donovan_Sharp. Subscribe to my YouTube channel by doing a quick search for Donovan Sharp. And of course, you can visit thesharpreality.com anytime for additional content. Till next time, thanks for listening.